Here we are.
Here we are.
Hello. So we are Tairn's Angels, and we are here to talk incessantly about books, and then specifically book series. So I am Lisa.
I'm Naomi.
I'm Jayne Marie.
And so do we want to talk about, so this is just going to be our first episode. We're not going to over talk anything today. And then, but we wanted to just like introduce ourselves and just like talk about how this happened and why y'all need to be listening / watching our podcast. And so we want to talk about how this even came about, or we can talk about how we know each other first.
Yeah, let's start off with how we know each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in a book club together. And so that's how I met these two lovely ladies, and it was through the book club. And but y'all have known each other longer.
Naomi, you want to chime in as much how we know?
Jayne and I are like sister wives, officially.
That's amazing.
So we share. Oh God, how do you even explain that? Jayne and I have a very unique situation because while most co-parents are trying to kill each other, we're trying to figure out how to live a harmonious life with shadow daddies. And
we embrace it. I think
and fat boys.
We are mature enough where we just have fully embraced it because we love our children and we want Bella to feel an abundance of love. Mm-hmm. And so we've come together and just built this amazing blended family.
Yeah. So they are co-parents.
Yes.
So they were not previously married, or they were not previously together.
My oldest daughter, Bella, the daughter, we share. Oh my God, how do you like work?
My husband is Naomi's ex-boyfriend.
There we go.
Yes. So Kitty and I share a daughter, and now we all share our family. So that's
how we know each other.
So we're millennials, and millennials literally redefine families. Because we all said, we saw it happen when we were kids. No, thank you. And so we're going to figure this out.
We're going to do it differently.
We're figuring out if it kills us. We're going to do it. So
and it works.
Yeah, it does.
So y'all, who was in the book club first? Were you guys both at the same time?
Same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Jenny, the book club president, she reached out to me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think we joined at the same time.
Yeah. Because our first book,
Hello Beautiful.
Hello Beautiful, yeah. I almost read half the book.
Nice.
And then I was like, I can't be flipping these pages. No one lets me live. Listen. You know what I mean? It's like when someone sees you doing something, they're like, this is the perfect moment that I need to tell that person I need them for something.
Oh my God, yes.
And so I can't, Seriously. So that's the one book that I attempted to read. And I got about halfway through the physical book. But yeah, I think we were same time. Yeah. You too. You came.
Was Hello Beautiful, was that December?
No, it was like warm weather time because I would read outside.
Okay, so no, I came later then. So I didn't come until January of last year.
What was the first book you remember?
Oh, when we did Hello Beautiful? It literally was, I think, August of 2023.
Okay.
And we had book club in September. And I say that
because we started in September. That was the anniversary.
I say that because I remember specifically like when I started my ACOTAR journey. It was right after reading Hello Beautiful.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. September was the anniversary.
So I think my first, I'm so bad with names. I think my first book was the one about the serial killer.
I missed a few because we went on. We had our first family vacation together. And so I remember, I think we missed something.
We did.
Being on that. Like, I didn't read Lessons in Chemistry.
That was so
good. There was that one. There was something before that.
Evelyn Hugo?
No, I read that one.
Evelyn Hugo was so good.
But there was something about the girl on the train, the girl next door. Am I saying that?
Okay. Where it
Was
like,
that the serial killer one?
where it took place in like 2 different timelines.
Maybe. I think it's
Or-
like that's the one that has like the Netflix series. Or
Yeah.
something. I'm trying to think of which one you came in on.
Honestly,
was it Verity?
No, I came right after Verity.
Oh, okay. I loved
one.
Verity.
Oh, Verity's good.
So,
but what I don't see what came after that may have been.
it was like this. It was the one because the person who brought me in is someone that I work with, and so I had mentioned the book, and so she picked that for her. Like she was hosting month, so she picked that book.
Oh yeah, I think she.
I literally cannot remember the name of the book because I'm so bad with names. Something about like
The Coming in the Waters.
no. This was by Naomi Singh. I can't think of. I just can't think of what.
What was the plot of the book?
So she's from. It takes place in New Zealand, and she's from there, and she just came back, and she's been gone forever. But we found out that there was like a series of murders that were never solved, and then like a local girl goes missing. So it's like
there's an actual book called "Local Girl Goes Missing."
Oh,
I read it, but it's not that one.
So and then you just kind of figuring out like, has she been kidnapped? Is she alive? What's going on? So it's like two mysteries.
I
And
didn't.
then a love story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that
it was
I
really
feel
good.
like that sounds like the book I read, but I'm pretty sure we haven't. Oh, Midnight. Okay.
Something.
Yeah, I didn't read that one.
Yeah.
And because did Lessons in Chemistry come after that? Or
yeah.
So see, there was like 2-ish back to back that we couldn't attend because you guys were traveling for something. Then we did the family trip was in July.
Yeah.
And so it must have been those two.
So then because I don't know if I even remember because Evelyn Hugo is where I feel like I met y'all at that one.
And Evelyn Hugo was April of last year.
Yeah. Because that was when we all wore green.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's when
you
hosted. I volunteered May.
Yes, for the one after. Yeah, because that one was at Jenny's house.
Because someone had mentioned.
I just looked at that picture yesterday. Actually.
Well, I just remember like, I think it was you because we were just like talking. Somehow we were talking about books that we like to read. And it was like Jayne's turn, and you were just like fairy smut. And I was just like, I'm like, hi, I'm Lisa.
And we were like sitting around the outside, right?
And I just remember coming home from book club and telling my husband, and like, okay, I think I made friends at book club. So, because I've been going for months and I still only knew the person who brought me in. And everyone's really sweet. It's just, I'm kind of a shy person. I don't seem like that, but I am. Yeah.
I'm an introvert, so like,
I'm not.
Balance us out.
Yes, So we, so I just was like, I kind of would just like go participate and then go home, and that was it. And I wouldn't talk to anybody else. And then I just remember when she had said, well, if I'm going to host, I'm going to do Fourth Wing. So I have a confession about Fourth Wing. I had been adamant about not reading it.
Oh.
Well, number one is because I knew that it wasn't finished.
Gotcha.
And I was so tired of reading series that weren't finished because it's so hard to remember, to keep up with them. My personality, I have to reread so I can remember what's happening. And then, so if they get longer and longer, it takes so much time. And I was like, I'm not reading Fourth Wing. And like a couple of my friends were all reading, or they had just got done reading it. And they're like, I think you'll really like it. And I was like, no, I'm not reading it. Stop, blah, blah, blah. And then I come home and I'm like, shit. I gotta read it.
You gotta read it. I hadn't even read it at that point.
No,
because and I think it's a little different when you start a series where there's like 5 or 6 books out. Like if you're going to start packaging,
absolutely,
you know what I mean? It's different because there's more books to read. But for Fourth Wing, it's such a short commitment, and then not at that time knowing when the third book might actually come out.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was so much anticipation with that. So I could see not wanting to commit to a 2-book.
Listen, full disclosure, I was like, I'm going to make these women suffer just like I have been suffering. And so sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to make them join the Rebecca Yarrow's cult.
So. Yes, exactly. And the funny thing is because I don't talk to anybody in the book club usually, or at that point, I didn't know people were dressing up. Like, I didn't know that everyone had collectively decided that we were all cosplaying for the Fourth Wing book, right? And so, and it was actually my husband who was just like, "Are you going to dress up?" And I was like, "I want to be the only person dressing up because we cosplay, right? We're giant nerds in my house."
But that's why,
So,
yeah.
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 And so I was like, well, let me just like text Jayne because we had been obnoxiously sending each other fourth wing reels.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it was like, like constant. So I was just like, hey, so like what's, because we always have a theme dress. And I was like, is the theme like black or whatever? And Homegirl literally sends me a picture. No, she sends me a picture of her already full dress.
Oh yeah. And let me tell you, I don't know what course that she was wearing in that picture, because she had a backstock of course.
She's like, I don't know what I'm wearing yet. And I was just like, this was like 4 days before. And I like send the picture to my husband and I was like, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. No. And so we're just like ordering everything we can, like next day, canceling stuff that won't make it in time.
And we had decided really early on, like one was who were we going to be, right? Yeah. Because it's so easy to say everybody wants to be Violet Scorga. Right? Sure. Because it's so easy. Everybody kind of relates to things about her character. But I knew that I was not going to be.
I love that you were
Imogen.
Yeah. And I'm like, I wanted to be like a badass character. But we knew early on that we were going to go all out. Like this was going to be like Halloween.
And I put it in the WhatsApp chat. I was like, come in your like fighting leathers or whatever. So like I put it out there just so that people can like, we have that theme going on. Yeah. Have it going on. And so I felt like it would just make it super fun.
It was so
fun. I think everybody's stuck to at least wearing black.
Yeah.
And so that's great.
And like combat boots and stuff.
Absolutely. There wasn't a single person who wasn't, in the spirit. And we took so many pictures.
I love that one of the girls came as Indarna.
I know.
That was everything.
I was looking at those pictures last night.
That was fun. That was
a good time.
Yeah. And then that's kind of what solidified. I was like, okay, I get like, this is a thing. And so, I always overthink everything. And so I'm always like, should I be here? Should I not be here? And then I was like, oh yeah, okay, I should be here.
I don't know if you guys have thought about this. Well, I know you did because you hosted for Fourth Wing. But when I think of when my perfect time will be to suggest a book or host a book club, I think, I can't think of what kind of book I'd want to read without thinking, how will this party look? Like this get together. Because I feel like your book club raised the bar. But that's how I like that it's like that.
Yeah.
You know, because we had the Covenant of Water one, and we were able to kind of like, all of the clothing that we got to play around with and things like that. But I think when you can sort of implement that element to those book clubs, it makes it so much more fun. I am a themed party person.
Yeah. Right.
Like if I could go to a Halloween party every single day just to dress up, I would go. So anytime,
yes, I would live in Halloween Town.
Yes, anytime that we can dress up for something, I have the best time doing that. But I don't. Have you thought about that? Like, if you pick a book, how would you host that get together?
Okay, so I have a couple. So here's my problem with hosting. Yes, I'm an all out person, and I would just like take the theme. Like I would be like just like Jayne. My whole house would literally. I can't even imagine the amount of money I would spend. Yeah. Imagine the amount of money she spent. Just like all of those things. And then also, I would be devastated if people didn't enjoy it.
And didn't show up. They didn't show up for whatever reason. But two, and it also, I wouldn't. Maybe you feel like this, but it would bother me. It bothers me when people don't take it seriously. Like, it's supposed to be fun and lighthearted.
Yeah.
Like if we read a book like for Fourth Wing, it's like, who doesn't want to dress up like a freaking dragon rider and be like, oh yeah, badass and walk a parapet
and the like inflatable dragon I had outside with the pretend parapet.
Oh my god! Well, we're gonna have to like post that. It was so
every
fun.
single detail.
I'm a big go home. What is it? Go big or go home. Like when I am like determined and I want to do something, I am fully committed.
Yes,
and I'm also a perfectionist.
Yes,
it has to be right.
Everything down to the dragons. Like everything had to be like, it was meticulously placed. I mean, you could have just had like a blueprint for where everything was really going to be put. I mean, it was very well. It was a lot of effort.
It was awesome. And like everybody who said they wanted, who RSVP literally came.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like surprised by that.
I would bet that was probably one of our biggest book club turnouts, if not like the biggest.
16 people in this house.
But it was an actual, like, what are those convention type? It was like a little baby dragon convention.
It really was. Like, it was a little like
it was so fun.
Like,
yeah.
And those are the kinds of gatherings that get you so excited for the next one.
Yeah.
And so obviously not every book is going to be fantasy. Not every book is going to sort of carry that idea, like, oh, I can throw a party and I can literally have a theme for it and have dragons swinging in the doorway kind of thing. But so when I think about the books, I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we were house hunting a couple years ago, every house we went into and I seen it on Jurem, I'm like, that's where the Christmas tree would go.
Yeah.
And everybody would be like, what the hell are you talking about a Christmas tree? It was like April or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, because I'm a visionary, right? Maybe that's what it is. And so that's something that I think about is, and not only that, I think, okay, I don't really want to volunteer until it's the time of year where I can do something fun. So right now my mind is at, maybe I'll volunteer for like an April book club or something. And then I want to do like a garden theme type party.
Yeah.
Like a tea party kind of, we can dress up and everything is themed. But then I'm like, well, what freaking book is going to go with that? Because I like romance fantasy. I like murder mystery. I like suspense.
You could do Avatar.
Okay.
Honestly,
I could do Avatar.
Spring Court.
And it could be Spring Court. Yeah. But it's getting everybody on board with fantasy again. It would require that.
Yes.
And because there's so many books in that, people aren't going to feel fulfilled. The ones that enjoy it are not going to feel fulfilled with the first one. Yes. Which is why with Iron Flame, or with Fourth Wing, it was very much like, listen, you guys are going to read this, and you're going to want to read Iron Flame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yes, the devastation comes when there is nowhere to go after Iron Flame. And I felt that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I waited. I waited because I knew at that point that Onyx Storm was going to come out in 2025. And so I waited and I didn't read Iron Flame until, I don't know, probably like October, November, or maybe like November-ish. So I waited a few months until it was a little bit closer to the book release. Because everybody had talked about what a big cliffhanger it was. And a couple of my friends were like, the dragons are annoying in the second one. Like, I hadn't heard a lot of great things. And so I was just like, okay, I'll just wait then. And but I have done a reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and that is literally how we got here, right? That's how we got to this podcast.
That's how we got here.
So basically, what happened was whenever I read a book and a series, and then a new one's coming out, then I go and reread the series, right? So I was rereading Fourth Wing, and this was literally like after Christmas, right? This is January. This is January. So I think that we're probably like 3 weeks from Onyx Storm coming out, and I'm rereading. I just really start with Fourth Wing, and I'm just like, I don't remember. Like, I wonder if this is an Easter egg. And I'm just like, and I'm talking to people, and everyone's just like, I don't really like Fourth Wing like that. And, but like, I just have no one to talk to. And literally one day, I just like pick up my phone and I start dictating my thoughts. And then I was just like, I'm just going to send this to Jayne. And I just shot it right. Like, homegirl literally out of nowhere, she gets a like 9-minute voice memo from me.
Yeah.
About Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, probably like 20 minutes later, I get like a 9-minute voice memo back. And I was just like, okay, I guess this is happening.
Yeah.
And we're just like going back and forth as I'm rereading Fourth Wing, and then as I'm rereading Iron Flame. And then like one day I'm like, hey, sorry, I literally just took over your life. And she was like, no, I want to talk about this all the time. So please keep going.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then she's like, I'm going to the opening. The Barnes and Noble had a midnight release. And she's like, I'm for my next storm. And you want to come? Like, me and Naomi are going. And, you know, like, why don't you come with us? And so I came, and it was just the three of us, right?
Yep.
And we were sitting
on the floor
in Barnes and Noble,
waiting to get the book
over, like literally just talking about all of our theories, and we were going back and forth between all the series that we read and everything. And I think it was Jayne who was like, "We should do a podcast."
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And we were like,
"Yeah, you've been wanting to do something."
Yeah, you know, the thing is, like, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I just never had like anybody to really do it with, or didn't know who to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I was just like, let me just put it out there with these girls, because like we really bond over these types of books and we love these types of books. And so I was like, I'm going to take a chance and just put it out into the universe and see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were so receptive and like, yes, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think I was like, don't tease me.
Brainstorming.
I think I said, don't tease me.
Yeah.
Because I will do it right now.
I was like, I am so serious. Like, if you guys are serious, I'm just as serious. Like, let's just like take a chance. And I'm so glad that like it went past like the ideation phase and we're like here and we're doing it.
Yeah.
And we're amateurs, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna be us, be authentic, and like hopefully, you know, it gains traction and people have a place that they can come and just feel just as excited and enthused just like we are. So
yeah. And we just like want you guys to know that this is not going to be for like recommendations on books. This is literally just like things that we love, and so it's going to be 100% riddled with spoilers.
Yes.
And we really just want to just overthink everything that we read and just talk about it. And so it's all stuff that we've read before. And I think we've said we're going to start with ACOTAR.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to start off like this is our first official episode, but then when we really start, we're going to deep dive, comb through, overthink, A Court of Thorns and Roses and all the books that are out right now. So, because that world is just so amazing.
That world is what got me back into reading.
Yeah.
Like, book club was an outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like, you know, we're all moms. We're all very busy. I think, you know, we're all trying to like find a semblance of a balance with just like being a mother, being a professional, and also trying to sustain like, or channel our inner selves and find like our individuality and just not forget who we are and what we like to do. And so that for me was just like, okay, this is an outlet. Like, I don't have anything that I'm doing that I really enjoy. It's just like the day-to-day monotony. The monotonous, it's just so monotonous. And so I wanted to get away from that and just do something that I enjoy. And so the book club kind of took me into that direction. And after we read Hello Beautiful, I remember going to Target. And every time I would go on my Target runs, I would see A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I would pick it up, the first book, put it in the cart, and I'll go around the store, and I'm like, I don't know, and I'll put it back. And I kept doing that every time I would go to Target. And then something told me, just get the freaking book, Jayne, just get it. And so I did, and then I hit the ground running from there on, and I just like, this is it for me, like fantasy's it. And I got out of my slump. And just started with ACOTAR. Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you, babe.
Cheers. Yeah. So I read Court of Thorns and Roses. I think it came out like sometime during lockdown, I think, or that's when I bought the book, and I read it, and then I was going to read the second one, and I had like texted a few of my friends like, hey, I just read this book. You know, I really enjoyed it, and one of my friends was like, yeah, the second book's trash. Like, it just doesn't get any good. Like,
yeah, the second book, I think, out of all of them so far, probably is the least liked book.
Which is like my favorite.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again.
Is it the second book?
Yes.
It's the first book. I think that I heard people say.
What's the second one's like? That's my favorite one.
That's my favorite one. That's the one that I've read the most. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Really to pick up.
Yeah, but I'm not really like a fantasy girly. I'm more like paranormal.
Yeah, okay.
Paranormal romance and
And
like
like the
sci-fi
murder.
romance and
All fantasy romance.
So like fantasy romance isn't like my genre of choice. And so I was just like going off based off of my friends' recommendations. And then I had read a few like Amazon reviews that were like, this book is trash. She's not even with Tamlin anymore. So the first book doesn't matter, blah, blah. So I had like read and I was just like, okay, well then why am I gonna waste my money? Because at that point, Kindle books were like $17. Like they were so expensive. Yeah, Audibles now, forget it. And so I was just like, whatever, I'll just save my money. And then the next year, so that would have been 2021. Yep. So I get a new job, and one of my coworkers was like, we were just randomly talking about how I read, and she was just like, "Well, have you read Akatar?" And I was like, "Oh, I read the first one, but I just stopped on. I stopped." And she was like, "No, you need to pick it up." And she was like, "Every day, have you read it? Have you read it?" So finally, after a month, I was like, "Fine, I'll just read it." And I did not sleep. And I was like, "What the hell?" Like this whole time, I could have just been in this world.
Yes.
And then once I realized that like Nesta was like getting a book and they were making more, like I had stopped reading it because again, I didn't want to wait on books to come out. And then a friend of mine, because I was talking about series constantly, she read them all and read Nesta's book, and she's like, "You need to read it right now." Like, just read it. And of course, Nesta's book is.
I'm so happy for your friend. I'm glad that she's persistent.
The world needs people like
on it. I know. Like I just think about constantly. Like I could have been in that world the whole time. Like what is wrong with me? Yeah. So, but I love talking about the books I'm reading, and that's always been a thing. So if I'm saying I'm reading this, and then someone's like, "I don't like it," and then I'm kind of
you're swayed.
Yeah, because
that ruins it.
So,
I feel like just don't say anything.
Yeah,
you know, because,
let me know what you think or something.
Yeah, like or I'd be curious to hear how you enjoyed it or what you liked about it.
So what about you? So what made you read Avatar?
You decided to once again destroy me. So for me, after I read Iron Flame, I had zero idea of where life's purpose lied.
Because you're a new reader, right?
I'm a new so book club for me was the introduction to reading. I was never a reader. Like I like researching things, right? So I like learning about like medical kinds of things. And so but I wasn't like a pick up a book and read it. I was like this fascinates me. I want to research it and learn more about it. So it was never a matter of finding time to get lost in a book. And it just didn't appeal to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that sounds boring. Mm-hmm. Hey, book readers, don't come for me.
No, I mean, I think that's a fair.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people share that.
Busy. You know, I can't even find time to go to the bathroom or take a shower or pretend like I'm sleeping without somebody needing me for something. And so I'm like, it's commendable that people can find time to sit down and read a book, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. And so book club, what book club did for me is one, expose me to all the different ways that you can become a reader, right? So for the record, I'm an Audible girl. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's something about having that live action audio playing in my ear, and my mind is sort of free to wander in that. And I think just having that added element of surround sound going on in my headphones, and I feel submerged in the story. And and we've talked about this before, I don't get that from reading a physical book because one, I'm the narrator, and maybe I don't want to hear my voice when I'm reading a book. I'm also trying to pronounce things, and I'm trying to, do things that a narrator in an Audible does, which is create this different world. And so I don't necessarily think I have the mind that allows me to go there. But being read to, like this is probably why kids like when you read to them, because you're the narrator and you're creating this world, and then they get to get lost in it. And it really does free up your mind to just get to play with everything that's going on. So book club exposed me to that. And if it weren't for book club, I probably wouldn't even do audibles, to be honest.
But what made you pick Audible? Like, did someone say just try to listen to it, or?
Well, so like I said earlier, with Hello Beautiful, I bought the book. I was so excited, and it was like the nostalgia of buying a book and thinking I'm going to sit down and read this, and I'm going to be like a book girly. Getting almost halfway through it, it was just such a struggle. And I'm like, I'm never going to survive in a book club if I can't read a freaking book. Right. So there was sort of there was a little bit of a stigma there. And I'm like, just can't be one of those girls who picks up a book and reads it. So I'm not going to fit into a book club. Hence why I'd never joined any kind of book club before. But then with Audibles, I think it might have been Josh's mom that said something about she did an Audible, or she listens to podcasts through Audible. And then I'm like, wait, Audible is like on Amazon, and well, we all know Amazon's wonderful. So I'm like, I spent a lot of time on Amazon. I'm like, let me check out Audible. So I started an Audible membership, and it kind of just took off from there. I'm like, this is so different. And I think in one of our first book club meetings, I specifically said, I am a movie girl. Like, if I have the opportunity to, like, if you tell me there's a book and there's a movie as well, regardless of which one came first. And I think this came up about Harry Potter and all these different things. And I said, I would watch the movie. Like, I would vote for the movie, hands down. I would never vote for the book over the movie. And so, being that, once I experienced Audible for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this is kind of like reading and watching a movie. I don't have the visual, but I also don't have to do all the legwork. I am literally being read to. And then I started realizing all the things I could accomplish while listening to my Audible. And it became an escape for me. And somehow or another, having those earbuds in or those headphones on and somebody in my house seeing me with them, it was like mom's listening to a book. They would leave me alone.
Kelly.
They would leave me alone. If they needed something, obviously I'd tend to them.
Yeah.
But I got so much more freedom from doing that. And I went through a spurt where I must have read like 15 books in between 2 book club sessions. And that was because Jayne obviously wants to destroy me and said, read Iron Flame. And then we did all of that, or Fourth Wing and then Iron Flame. But then I was in the slump, right? And Jayne was like, what is it? The Hangover? What's the term?
Book hangover.
And I'm like, oh my God, I've never been addicted to something.
Yes.
I feel this kind
and
of
you just
way.
want to feel it.
And so I was looking for a high, right, to chase. And I started reading a book, and I was probably, 10 pages in, and I was at the gym. And I FaceTimed Jayne, and I think I was on a bike. And I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this book I'm so bored reading this book. And I won't say the name of the book because ultimately, like, you've read the book since then, and it is a good book. It's just not the kind of book I think you come off of a fantasy high from. And so I felt very lost. And I'm like, Jayne, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. I don't know anything really about the fantasy world still. I only know Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. She was like, start ACOTAR. She's like, it's going to destroy you, but start ACOTAR.
It's going to feel so good.
Because at least with ACOTAR, there was, 5 or 6 books. There was a light at the end of the tunnel because it wouldn't be finished even when I was done reading. And so I started ACOTAR, and I probably read those 5 books again, don't come for me. I listened to those 5 audibles. People like to say, you don't
consumed the series.
I absorbed the content.
Yep.
In less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then after that,
crazy. That's awesome.
After that, I did some kind of, like, I did the Twisted Love series. And even though that's not really like fantasy, it's not fantasy at all. It was just a little bit of a hiatus for me to take because it was so much reading ACOTAR.
You needed like a palate cleanser.
Yes. And I think, so Jayne always has these like really good terms to kind of make me feel better about feeling so messed up after reading these books.
It's normal. You're just one of us now.
Yes. And so I'm like, I love that suspense, like the psychological thriller type things. So I read the Twisted series, and then I read some books that were kind of like based on the lives of like almost like Disney villain type story things.
Oh, was one what Hooked was one?
Yes.
Hooked.
Wretched. Yep. Like there's a series, there's a couple
There's like
different
7,
series
6
that
or
are
7.
sort of that's like the idea of them. But I did so I read one set of that, and that kind of took me into starting to go back into fantasy.
Disney villain retelling.
They are retellings.
Okay.
There's one that's kind of based on like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay.
There's like one that's Hook, which is kind of like Peter Pan.
Okay.
You know, so that idea. And so I read those, and that was like a little bit of fantasy. It was a little bit of other things. And so that, I don't think I really read any hardcore fantasy after ACOTAR. ACOTAR messed me up.
Yeah.
It messed me up.
In the best way.
In the best way. And I thought, if I can't be there, I don't want to be anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is a world.
Take me to Valaris right now.
I was consumed with so many emotions after reading ACOTAR, which sounds crazy to anybody who doesn't read or listen to anything or go on that fantasy journey. I still wake up thinking, why do I have to be in this world?
Yes, literally.
That world.
It's
Even
so
though
rude.
I know that world doesn't exist.
It's disrespectful.
Here.
Yeah, because like this is why I prefer to read series. Like I'm the type of person that when I commit to something, I am fully committed.
Yeah.
And I'm invested in the characters. I want to know who your mom is. I want to come home for dinner. Like who's your favorite cousin? Who's your enemy? Like I want to know everything about the characters. Mm. And it just allows you to just like be fully immersed and just channel that like creativity and like use like your imagination and just live in it for a little bit. Yeah. It's the best feeling. It's great. A great escape. Yeah.
But I mean, so I'm an Audible girl.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm mainly Kindle girly.
Okay.
I can't think the last time I actually read a physical book. Yeah. I take that back. I did read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I read that in a book because I borrowed it from, I think, one of the girls in the podcast in the book club. And so I just went to the park with my kids one day because it was such a nice day. The day of the book club. And I just
I read that book the day before book club.
The one thing I can say about Jayne is ever since she has submerged herself in fantasy, it is very hard, I think, to get you to read anything that is not fantasy based.
You're right.
Yes. And so I have to
this
push.
I really honestly, I have to really want to read the book.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't speak to me, then I'm just kind of like it.
Yeah, it has to be
pulling teeth, and that's when I will go to Audible and I'll just get the Audible and I'll just sit and work and listen to it while I'm like, so I can just get it. Then it feels like homework.
Yeah. But there are pros and cons to Audible, right? So loving the narrator's voice can be a big thing, and I think with the Covenant of Water, that probably played into me DNFing that book. Again, not saying you shouldn't read the book, because everyone that did read it really enjoyed it. It's a lot of information. It's historical fiction, I believe, right? But for me, the actual author of that book, I think, is the narrator on Audible. And I just couldn't get into it. So if you are somebody who likes Audible or you're considering Audible, I think keeping that in mind, that you may not love the narrator's voice, and that might be enough to make you not want to read the book.
Yeah.
So something to consider, because I know somebody mentioned to me from the book club that they don't like Audibles necessarily with like a British narrator, like that the accent of the narrator can throw off a story for them. So something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
But I mean, what is it about the Kindle that you feel like you gravitate towards that? So like, because you can just kind of take it anywhere.
Oh, first of all, it's waterproof.
Oh.
So I can, because I've ruined a lot of books reading in the bathtub, going to the beach, going to the lake. I mean, my Kindle, I'm on my second Kindle now, so they're durable. And like I've literally dropped it into a river and it's fine. I've dropped it into a pool, not the ocean, because they're not salt waterproof. And I just throw it in my bag. I don't have to worry about and I always have my library with me, and Kindle Unlimited changed my life. Yes. You read some of the most unhinged things, but I don't there. I love it. And so that's why I just but then I will, like, I am like a serial killer where if there's something that I absolutely love, like a book I love, then I just buy the hardbacks, and then they're just like little trophies. And then have I ever opened it? No, it doesn't matter. But I want it up there.
I have all the books we've read, like physical books that we've read from book club, almost all of them.
So I think this is probably a good place to stop. And we will, so to recap, we are going to do a deep dive on Court and Thorns and Roses, the first book. And then we're just gonna go from there. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
And I got anything to say?
We will see you next time.
See you next time.
Like and subscribe and do all the things.